Shalom, shalom. I want to start by giving all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Kahakudash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone for teaching us this doctrine to push out there to the hopeful elect, Akim Wa'agwa, Yahweh being the name of the Heavenly Father who the world ignorantly and falsely calls God, right? Yahweh means he is. It is the ancient Hebrew or Proto-Hebrew for he is. Yah, he, Yahweh, right? Yahweh, he is, he exists, right? Right? Yah just means he. Yah is not his name, right? Yahuwah is not his name. Jehovah is not his name. It's Yahweh, okay? And his son, Yahweh Shai, right? Which means he delivers because he is our deliverer. He's going to be, he is the deliverer. He's who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, right? Jesus Christ is not his name. There was no such thing as the letter J back in our heritage, okay, in the days of our heritage, okay. When we had a kingdom, when we had our civilization, right? There was no J. His name was not Jesus, okay, right? And Bahashem meaning in the name of, Hashem just means name, right? Baha in the name of Bahashem, right? And I just wanted to clear that up real quick. But today's lesson, I was thinking about it. I came up with seven types of people that King Solomon avoided, okay? Because we're gonna learn from King Solomon today, right? King Solomon had all types of game and wisdom to push out there. Because King Solomon, is one of Yahweh Shai's incarnations, right? King Solomon is one of Yahweh Shai's incarnations. That wisdom, that's some divinely inspired wisdom that only could have come from on high, right? All the common wisdom that you see today, that's inspired by Yahweh Shai Shai, man, right? But all of the wisdom comes from these scriptures, man, right? But King Solomon, he was the wealthiest man in history. I think wealthier than the so-called elites today, right? And I figured, I just got off work. I've been up all night. I'm tired. I driving 616 miles per night. Believe me, it pays the bills, but I'm beat. But we got to do this work, right? But I'm gonna go into the type of people that King Solomon warned us to avoid, and in post processing, I'm gonna put the scriptures up on the video, okay? And you can't keep company with everybody, man. Okay, you cannot keep company with everybody because not everybody is healthy for you in your salvation. It's a lot of people gonna hold you back. In reality, a lot of people are gonna hold you back from salvation, right? You want to avoid certain types of people. The scriptures teach us, that the people around us, man, they influence us, man. They influence our thoughts and, how we move around with our habits, your spirit. And, ultimately, man, that determines your destiny. Ultimately, they influence your destiny, man. Right? So, King Solomon, he was blessed with wisdom above all, man, above all men on the planet, man. And, throughout the book of Proverbs, man, he continuously and repeatedly tells us and warns us about certain types of individuals, whose influence could lead to your destruction, man. You know what I'm saying? So, number one I got written down here is, avoid fools, man. Let me get Proverbs 13 and 20, because Proverbs 13 and 20 tells us to avoid fools. All right, here it is. He that walketh with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed. Okay, right? You know, and what that's saying is, you know, if you surround yourself with wise people, wise men in particular, that's gonna rub off on you, right? You know, they say, you know, that shit'll rub off on you like some lotion. You know, if you hang around broke people, your ass gonna be broke. You know what I'm saying? If you hang around stupid people, your ass gonna be stupid, right? You know, their decision end up becoming your problem. You know, a fool is somebody that rejects wisdom, man. As the scriptures define, a fool is somebody that rejects wisdom, they reject instruction, they reject correction. And if you reject all three of them things, you're really rejecting the Lord, because the Lord rejecting that person, right? You know, a good precept for that. Let me get Proverbs 1 in chapter 7. That's a good precept for that. Because I, you know, y'all personally, I love the book of Proverbs. Proverbs is, to me, it's a Proverbs is a drug, man. I'm addicted to Proverbs. It's like I swear, when I open up the scriptures, the first book I flip to be Proverbs. I love Proverbs. It's heat. Proverbs is straight up heat. Let me get Proverbs chapter 1 and 7. Because what is wisdom, right? We define wisdom. All right, I'm gonna put the precept Proverbs 1 and 7. It says, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. Right? Because fear of the Lord is the foundation, man. That's the foundation of wisdom. Where do you get wisdom? It's literally defined in wisdom. Wisdom is what? Fear of the Lord, right? Because having your fear rooted in the Lord, Yahweh Shem Yahushua, is going to actually put wisdom in your spirit, man. It's going to give you that spirit of wisdom, right? But only fools despise wisdom and instruction. They can't take no discipline, right? They, you know, they misunderstand it. It go over their head, and they ultimately reject it, right? All right, let me go to my next point, because I got 7 points here. I can't drag this on too long. Avoid angry men, right? Let me go to Proverbs chapter 22. Proverbs chapter 22 and verse 24. And I'm going to read the 25. And it says, make no friendship with an angry man, and with a furious man thou shalt not go. Next verse, lest thou learn his ways and get a snare to thy soul. Okay? Right? Because the spirits are contagious, man. You know, if you consistently, I'm tired, y'all. But if you constantly, you know, associating, being around with angry people, man, eventually their mindset becomes your mindset. That's free game for you. Free game. Right? You can't win being with losers, man. You know, if you a man in this truth, and you got faith in Yahweh Shem Yahushua, man, you have to have a winning mentality. You have to have a trophy mindset. You have to have a rulership mindset in all humility. Right? I know me, I ain't hang around them. They keep that nigga shit over there. Keep that shit over there. I'm not with that nigga shit. You can keep it. You can hold on to it and you can cherish it. You can keep that over there. Right? That I don't want your problems to become my problems. I don't want your reaction to be my reactions. You know, because what's gonna end up happening is, when you be around angry people like that, is you find yourself trapped in situations that you never intended being a part of. Okay, free game, you know. All right, you know what I mean? So, you know, just be careful when around people that's just angry, man. You know, because how you gonna rule your spirit if you can't, if you being around somebody that can't rule their spirit? All right. So, number 3, I got point number 3, right? Avoid talebearers and avoid gossipers, right? Let me go to Proverbs chapter 16. Proverbs chapter 16, right? Because what is a talebearer, right? Let me Google the definition. Define talebearer, right? A person who spreads gossip, rumors, or secrets, especially with the intent to cause trouble or harm, right? A rumor monger, right? A gossiper, right? You don't want to be around somebody that can't keep their fucking mouth shut, right? Remove yourself from them type of people, man. Let me go get Proverbs chapter 16 and 28, like I said I was gonna do. Proverbs chapter 16 and verse 28. Look, you be around a dude, who can't keep people's secrets and like to spread rumors and stuff, man, you next. And that's all I'm gonna say, right? So Proverbs chapter 16 and 28. A froward man soweth strife, and a whisperer separateth chief friends. When they say chief friends, that means best friends, right? The people that's closest, your friends that's closest to your best friends, man, right? When gossip tends to break that up, you know what I mean? It plants seeds of conflict, man, and strife, right? Because whisper, he's a gossip. That's what a whisperer is. That will destroy a friendship. That will destroy a brotherhood, man. It can, especially if it's a friendship that's not rooted in Yahweh Shem Yahushua, right? Because remember, the base of wisdom, the base of brotherhood, the base of all good things and honor and integrity, that the base of that is the what? The cornerstone, the bedrock. Yahweh Shem Yahushua. That's the base of it. That's the base of all good things, man. Okay? Right? Gossip is not a good thing. There's a reason why that's a sin. Right? I got a precept for that too. It's Proverbs chapter 26 and verse Proverbs chapter 26 and verse 20. And it reads, so is the man that deceiveth his neighbor. Oh, Salakia. Oh, no, that's the one. Okay. Yeah, Proverbs chapter 26, verse 20. Where no wood is, the fire goeth out. So where there is no talebearer, the strife ceaseth. Okay? And what that means is, where there's a person, so basically the person that's causing the drama, if the person that's causing the drama ain't in that situation, the gossip is going to stop. And that scripture is likened unto like where there's no wood, there's no fire, right? So a fire needs what in order to burn? It needs fuel. What's a good source of fuel for a fire? Wood. So where no wood is, the fire goeth out, right? So where there's no talebearer, the strife ceases. You know what I'm saying? Because conflicts keep going and existing because someone keep carrying information or false information or whatever back and forth. Okay? All right? So, moving on with the lesson, my fourth point is, because we got 3 more points. I got 3 more points to bring out, right? My fourth point is avoid the strange woman. Okay? Avoid the strange woman. And I'm going to go to Proverbs chapter 5. I'm pulling out all Proverbs. Chapter 5, verse 3. From the lips of a strange woman as an honeycomb, and her mouth is smoother than oil. But her end is bitter as wormwood and sharp as a 2-edged sword. Because wormwood is poisonous, man. Right, let me go to the next verse. Her feet go down to death. Her steps take hold on hell. Lest thou shouldest ponder the path of life, her ways are movable, that thou canst know them. Hear me now, therefore, O ye children, and depart not from the words of my mouth. Remove thy way far from her, and do not, and come not nigh the door of her house. Okay? And what that's saying is, when it says that her end is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword, right? You know, uh, that's saying that because wormwood is poisonous and it's sharp as a two-edged sword. It can cut you. What does a sword do? It cuts you, right? Notice that Solomon, right? When Solomon wrote this, he was talking about how you remove your way far from her, right? You know, because in certain women that you want to avoid, this is also talking about certain religions too. You know, doctrines that sound good to the ear, whatever, right? You know, avoid that as well. But in this particular case, you know, stay far away from strange women, right? And you know, so many men, right? You know, have lost their reputation, man, their family, their money, right? Because they ignored this woman, man. They ignored this not they ignored this warning from King Solomon, right? King Solomon was a wise man, and he was rich in wisdom and rich in money, right? Um, you know, stay away from certain type of women. Avoid them women. Don't give in to that type of temptation, man. All right, so my next verse, Salakia, my next point that I have is avoid drunkards and gluttons, right? There's different types of people that you have to avoid, right? And if you're gonna succeed in this thing of ours and you're gonna succeed and get on them chariots, there's certain people you gotta avoid, man. And this is Proverbs chapter 23. You go to Proverbs chapter 23 in verse 20. And it says, be not among wine bibbers, among riotous eaters of flesh. Next verse, for the drunkard and the glutton shall come to poverty, and drowsiness shall clothe a man with rags. Right? You know, I got, you know, there's people that I know personally, um, um, you know, people I might work with, you know, cool Jake at work, and I'm like, look, man, he's asking me, he's like, oh man, I need to fuck with you in the gym. I need to fuck with you in the gym. I'm like, well, shit, our job, man, you gotta get up early, man. You gotta be willing to do it. I don't know if I could just get up. And then every time he called me, or I call this guy, you know, coworker, you know, because we gotta work together a lot of times out there on the road. I'm about to pull up to this Wendy's, yo. I'm about to pull up to this Wendy's, yo. Fucking Wendy's. Like, do you even respect yourself, bro? Avoid them type of people. You know what I mean? You know, because Solomon is warning us against people who are ruled by the flesh of their appetites, man. Somebody just can't control themselves, right? You can't control anything. It's anybody who can't control himself, they end up destroying themselves, and they can't be trusted with any sort of responsibility, man. They can't be trusted with that. All right. Anyways, let me go to my next point. Avoid scorners, right? Proverbs chapter 22 and 10. It says, cast out the scorner, and contention shall go out. Ye, strife and reproach shall cease, right? Because a scorner don't like wisdom. He lacks wisdom and he mocks wisdom. He mocks correction and he mocks righteousness, man. Right? If you mocking correction and wisdom, you mocking righteousness ultimately. Right? So when the scorner leaves, contention will leave, right? You know, because groups of people, you know, families and organizations typically find the peace when the scorner is removed. When you pluck out, what is it? A little leaven if the whole lump, right? Matter of fact, let me go get that. A little leaveneth the whole lump. A little leaveneth the whole lump. This is Galatians chapter 5, verse 9. A little leaven leaveneth the whole lump. Right? That's that bad apple philosophy, man. And I got another precept. Proverbs chapter 9, verse 7 and 8. He that reproveth a scorner getteth himself shame, and he that rebuketh a wicked man getteth himself a blot. Remove not a scorner, lest he hate thee. Rebuke a wise man, and he will love thee. Right? Wise men appreciate correction. I seek correction. I'm not purposely going out there doing stupid shit. But when I'm doing stupid shit, please tell me I'm doing stupid shit. That's the mindset that you should have. Right? But on the flip side of that, you got a nigga you can't tell shit. You can't tell him shit. You tell him he fucking up, he'll dance around it. You can't be around that. You avoid scorners, right? Avoid that type of shit, man. All right. Anyway, this is my last point, and this is a kind of a catch-all, and it's avoid wicked men. This is the book of Proverbs, chapter 4, and verse 14. Enter not into the path of the wicked, and go not in the way of evil men. Avoid it, pass not by it, turn from it, and pass away. For they sleep not, except they have done mischief, and their sleep is taken away, unless they cause something to fall. Right? And that, honestly, that goes into following the path of Esau Edom. Because Esau Edom is a fucking fool. Right? He's a fucking fool. Right? Avoid his ways, man. Right? Pass not by it, man. You know, because that's how dangerous the influence of wicked men are. You see how wicked people living? They look like they living good. They look like they living real good. Meanwhile, you over here under the freaking doggone curses. Had guy 1 in 6 over here. You got a hole in your bag. Can't hardly hold on to no bread. You know, you getting sick over and over again. Your woman is, you know, on some bullshit. You know, that's tough. But the wicked seem like they just living it up. Right? And that brings me to what? Proverbs 3 and 31. It is, and it reads, envy thou not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways. Right? And that goes into what I was just saying, how, you know, many people really do admire and want to, and envy and want to live after wicked men because they look like they doing good. You know, your favorite rapper, your favorite movie actor, whatever, you know, whatever have you, you know, you looking at their Instagram or their Twitter, you know, they posting a new watch, they got a new whip they riding, or they rapping about, you know, they rapping about living a lifestyle that you thought that you wanted to live. Don't envy that. Right? And, you know, I say that to say, you know, King Solomon, he was wise. He was wise to avoid certain type of people, man. Okay? Because you got to choose your company wisely, man. Because the people around you could really determine how you move in life, man. And with that, I hope you all were edified by this lesson. And call Allah Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai, by Hashem HaKadosh, you know, for giving me a spirit to do this lesson, man. You know, Jake tired, man, you know, but we got to keep pushing, and we got to do what we got to do. You know, keep pushing forward through this work, you know. Call Allah Yahweh Yahushai. And I hope you all edified. Until next time, Adawan Ratazah, Shalom.